Hi, today's plan is tomato soup. Actually, it was Ashley's idea to do grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. As usual, we're doing it my style. So I couldn't find one recipe for tomato soup. I found a few. We're all pretty well rated. So what I did was just pick out the elements that I thought were great from each of them. And then I'm going to add my own elements, as you know I usually do. So we will start with the soup, get that going, and then when it's pretty much ready, we'll just keep it warm and make the sandwiches, and then we'll try it. The first thing I'm just gonna do is I have my pot, I'm just gonna warm it up. One thing I did go out and buy was this immersion blender because I wanna make it more of a bisque, like a tomato bisque. I don't want it rustic with big pieces of things. I wanna actually make it more like a creamy soup, which is gonna be outstanding. One of the elements that I wanna add to it is some red peppers, which I hope will be great, because I love the red pepper soup also, red pepper bisque. So we'll sort of combine those elements into one soup. So, and since I just started warming this up, I will be right back and we'll start. That's nice and hot, that's nice and hot. Okay, so I'm gonna add probably, that's a half a stick of butter, so 3 or 4 tablespoons. And where's my olive oil? I thought I had it out. Maybe I didn't. Okay. Add some olive oil. Keeps the butter from browning too fast. So that's kind of medium to high. The first step I'm gonna add is about, it's a medium onion, 3/4 of a large onion. And because it takes so long to soften, I am going to add in a carrot. Some of the recipes called for celery also, which I would usually add in this, but the recipe that Ashley read out to me did not have celery, it had celery salt. So I don't have celery to put in here. I'll add celery salt and hopefully give it some of that flavor in a little while. So for this, I'm probably just gonna give it a little seasoning as I go. So a little salt and pepper, or pepper and salt, so whichever, you know. And I'm just gonna let this cook on the stove for a while to start to soften before I add other ingredients to it. So it is starting to soften, at least the onions are. The carrots are too a bit, but they take a while. So I'm just continuing. What I might do is add garlic. And I might add, this is one of those serving teaspoons, just a spoon of that. You never want to add the garlic by itself unless you're watching it like a hawk, because it can burn. So if it's in the pot with other things, it is less likely to burn and turn black. It's what you don't want it to turn black, because then it gets bitter. Otherwise it'll roast nicely in the pan. The next step is to add, this is one of my little home elements that I'm adding in, is about 1 red pepper. So my soup's probably gonna be more of a tomato and red pepper bisque. This I'm just stirring. I did add a little bit of celery salt a few minutes ago. It smells like celery, so I probably should have just added celery, gone with my gut instead of what the recipes read out. I don't know where she found that recipe. And it's probably a good one. It had a good rating, but still. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this continue to cook and soften before we come back with the next step. Okay, so my Onions are very softened, turning translucent. Garlic is cooked. The carrots and peppers are coming, not quite, but coming. So what I'm going to do next is add a couple of ounces of tomato paste. Let's see. It's like this container is already half used. I'm just going to finish it. First, we'll just stir that around. Let that tomato paste sort of cook on the bottom. Yeah, I just had another idea. Leave it to me. Ideas come as I'm cooking. This wasn't in any of the recipes, but I'm gonna try it, so I'll be right back and tell you. So this is starting to dry out a little bit. At least the tomato paste I added has been cooked a few minutes and is starting to dry out. So this was what I thought about, and we'll tell you if it was the wrong idea at the end. But I used vermouth for the French onion, and there's maybe a third to a half cup left. So I'll add that in here. We will deglaze, stir, and let it cook down and reduce to boil off the alcohol but leave the flavor. And it's boiling down. One thing I wanted to add, also not in the recipe, was a little rind. This is just a little tiny rind of Parmesan. Often when you add that Parmigiana, it adds that little je ne sais quoi, so that little extra, what is that? So we'll try it. And if this is all too much, we'll try another recipe another time. Okay, so for now, let that cook down. It's literally almost half, two-thirds done already. So the next step is to add in some chicken stock. I like the stock rather than the broth. It's a little thicker and has a little more flavor. Okay, that's pretty well dried up. Now, I would add at least a cup, maybe a cup and a half of tomato stock or chicken. And we will stir, let this go. What I'll probably do is just go ahead and add the tomatoes. These are 2 cans of whole peeled San Marzano tomatoes. So that's, oh, and it has a little basil in there, as I can see. What I also have is a little fresh thyme and rosemary to add in. I will just stir this up. I'm gonna let it come to a boil. We will cover it and simmer it for a while. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long, till it looks like everything is blending and the flavors are coming together. So once that happens, then we'll be back and we'll talk about the next steps. We're debating the merits of soup in the summer. It's a hot soup. Most soups are hot, unless you want gazpacho, which I don't make. But you can have a salad if you don't want it hot, but it's gonna be good. So I just forgot about this. A lot of the recipes called for sugar or honey. I just added about a teaspoon of honey. Maybe to cut through some of the acidity of the tomatoes. Still trying to come to a boil, but you know what it is. Boil, cover, simmer, and then come back. So we're back. This has been cooking probably at least 30 minutes. Let's see what else. Did I do anything else? I added a few red pepper flakes. I added a little bit more celery salt. I'm going to add now, the recipe Ashley found called for half and half. I've seen some that call for milk. I'm adding heavy whipping cream, or I think they call it double cream in some areas. Yeah, just because that's what I love. Okay, that's maybe about a cup-ish. Okay. I'm going to do, ooh, okay, somebody's feet down there. Okay, I'm just going to stir this and let this cook a little longer all together before I try to puree it into more of a bisque consistency. So I've had that on simmer. I may have to increase it a little bit to get it to a boil so I can lower it and get it to cook and get those flavors to marry again. So we'll be back. I think I figured it out. Ready? I have this on the bottom, so hopefully it's not splattering me. Oh, it's easy. If I looked it up, it splatters. Gotta be careful. What I'm trying to do is blend all of my vegetables and tomatoes into broth. This should hopefully thicken it. Get a nice thick soup. So we'll keep working at this and I'll be right back. Okay, that looks much more like an even brothy consistency. So I'm going to raise it again, boil, cover, simmer, and let it cook for a few more minutes until we're ready to eat it. I guess I should turn my light on while I'm doing this. I don't know if it'll help me be less backlit, but soup we talked about. I have a pan with a little bit of butter on the bottom, and I'm going to make grilled cheese. So it's the same bread. You can use whatever you like, you know, the real crunchy rustic ones like ciabatta or baguette. You can use brioche, but what I have is that Sara Lee artisan bread, which my family seems to like. It's light and not hard to chew on. But I have in here, so butter on the outside, and then inside I have some Havarti and some just cheddar. I'm going to put a couple of those down, try to let them brown up, medium heat, and when they brown, we'll flip them over. I want to cook long enough, low enough heat that they brown and they're crispy and the cheese is melted. If it's too high, it'll burn on the outside before the cheese is melted, so I want to cook that low and slow enough to get everything melted. Then we'll take it off. We'll do the second batch of sandwiches and then show you the finished product. Okay, here it is. I put a little bit of parsley on my soup. I have my sandwich. Don't know if that's Ashley coming out of the room or not, but let's taste it. First, I'm going to taste my soup. I love tomato bisque soup, and that's excellent. Now, I'll take a piece of the sandwich. You know how you're supposed to do it. Grilled cheese and tomato soup. Let's dip it in. Let it cool. I'll have to blow on it a second. I'll give Ashley a taste test. She's happy. We'll give Ashley a taste test in a second. Ready? That's William making sound effects. That's delicious. We'll be right back.
So beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
Absolutely beautiful.
So Ashley is putting caramelized onions in her grilled cheese sandwich, similar to what we made with the French onion soup.
Great.
So we'll be back and get her taste test. Just thinking about how much nutrition is in that soup. There's chicken stock, there's cheese, which is
very fresh. The soup
that's the
tastes
soup.
very
She just
fresh.
tasted the soup. Tomatoes, onions,
Really
carrot,
good.
celery if you had celery. I put peppers in.
It's
The stock,
very fresh, actually.
very nutritious. Okay, she's dipping her sandwich. Let's see. And she put the caramelized onions in hers.
Perfect.
You don't have to describe it if you don't want to. Just your reaction is enough.
It's amazing.
Okay, so she likes it.
Oh my God. Ow!
William.
I
Okay.
stole my toe.
So we have 2 thumbs up. It's beautiful. I think it's definitely worth another do. So does Ashley. Okay, thanks. 2 thumbs up. We have one update. So Mr. I wanted mac and cheese instead of everything actually really likes the grilled cheese dipped in soup. He liked it so much, he asked for his own plate. Okay, that's 3 thumbs up. If you make it, I hope you enjoy.